You ever have one of those mornings where your whole world shifts before you've even had your coffee? That was me the day I found out my family's 3,500-acre ranch, land my folks worked for 3 generations, had been sold out from under me by an HOA I'd never joined. Yeah, that happened. I pulled up before sunrise, thinking maybe I'd beat the cold and get a few hours rest before dealing with anything more complicated than a thermos of black coffee and the sound of cattle waking up slow on the Wyoming prairie. But as soon as my tires hit the drive, the place felt off. Too many trucks, too many people, strangers hauling off my equipment like it was a sidewalk sale. One guy, wearing some shiny safety vest, had the nerve to try loading up my granddad's old feed wagon, his boots kicking up dirt like he belonged there. Another cursed at my branding chute, fumbling with fencing he didn't even understand. It was a circus, and I wasn't invited. I got out of my truck, boots sinking in the frost, breath heavy in that cold dawn air, and that's when I saw the sheet of paper nailed to the gate, snapping in the wind like a warning. Foreclosure. Sold to HOA bidder. Effective immediately. For a moment, the whole world just stopped. My family's land had never been in foreclosure, never even a late tax payment. Hell, my dad welded the file cabinet where I kept every receipt, just in case. I felt like the last honest man at a poker table full of cheaters. Then I heard her voice, polished, sharp, like she'd been waiting to say it all along. "Mr. Carter, we've been expecting you." There she was, Marilyn Croft, president of the Cedar Hills HOA, a place 5 miles south that sprouted up like a bad rash around a golf course nobody could keep green. She wore a red wool coat, more suited for a Denver art gallery than cattle country, and held a clipboard like it was the law itself. Her goons, 2 board members, tablets in hand, watched every piece of my life get loaded up by hired hands. I asked her straight, "Mind telling me why people are stealing equipment off my land?" She called it transferring ownership, said there'd been an auction the day before for delinquent community impact fees, 78 grand, to be exact. I told her, I've never been part of any HOA, never signed a thing. She just smiled and tapped her clipboard. Boundary adjustments. Membership is automatic now. Like that's how land works. Like you can rewrite history with a memo and a stamp. That's when I knew this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a declaration of war, and they picked the wrong Carter. By the time I reached the Cedar Hills Community Center, I was burning. Mud stuck to my boots as I stormed inside, where Marilyn and her board sat like royalty behind a long table, projectors showing my ranch outlined in bright HOA blue. She barely looked up. "This meeting is for verified Cedar Hills property owners only." So I asked, how'd my ranch end up on that map? They talked about boundary realignment, mailed notices, proper channels. Then I pressed them. Which address? They'd sent everything to a P.O. box that expired over a decade ago. No in-person notice, just paperwork sent to the void. Marilyn didn't blink. "We are not responsible for your failure to maintain correct contact information." That's the kind of arrogance that makes your blood run cold. I demanded to see the document. They handed me a boundary map, signed by a surveyor named Richard Clean. Only problem? I'd attended Richard's funeral 10 months before that signature was dated. "This signature is forged," I said, loud enough that the room stiffened. Marilyn tried to bluff her way out, said it was the legal team's work. But her voice was hollow, and she knew it. I stared her down and told the board, if one signature is fake, what else is forged? I left them rattled, but I knew I needed more. Sheriff Bo showed up, hat in hand, acting like the matter was settled. Paperwork processed, nothing he could do. I told him about the dead man's signature. "That's something for the county clerk." He muttered, "Some help." That night, as dusk settled over the pasture, I walked the fence line, boots sinking into wet earth, Cottonwood Creek whispering nearby. I found 3 sections of fence cut, clean with bolt cutters. No accident, no cattle could have done it. Someone wanted my herd loose, wanted trouble, wanted evidence they could twist. As I was kneeling by the fence, a skinny kid in a thin hoodie approached, Wyatt. Barely 16, shaking like a leaf. He confessed. Marilyn Croft paid him $50 to cut my fence, said it was community service, told him nobody would ever know. I told him to keep his head down and the truth ready, just in case. Evidence. That's what I needed. And the next morning, I got more. A white HOA SUV rolled up, a clipboard-wielding enforcer named Jeremy handed me a thick envelope. Expedited eviction. I let him talk, then told him, "The records you have are forged, signed by a dead surveyor." He paled, but said he was just doing his job. "And I'm just protecting what's mine," I answered, taking the papers. As soon as he left, I dug through that envelope. Violation notices, maps, a plan to turn my ranch into a luxury resort. The developer behind it all, Clint Barrow, the kind of snake who's always just a step ahead of the law. My only weapon now was the paperwork my father saved. In the old barn, I found it, an original 1968 federal easement for Cottonwood Creek, giving me protected water rights and putting my land under federal jurisdiction. That wasn't just a shield, it was a sword. I needed it confirmed. So I headed to Cheyenne, to Rachel Monroe, a lawyer who believed truth didn't need gloss. I laid out everything. Wyatt's confession, the forged map, the sabotage, the eviction threats. Rachel's eyes got sharp as flint. "This is systematic," she said, "targeted. If they forged one document, they forged more." Deputy Clerk Granger joined us, confirmed that if the easement held, the HOA couldn't touch my land, not legally. Rachel dug through tax records and found a pattern. Foreclosed properties snatched up cheap, funneled to shell companies tied to Barrow and the HOA board. The judge who signed off? Bought and paid for by Barrow's PAC. As the storm outside faded, the real storm was just starting. A few days later, the HOA held a community safety forum, complete with slideshows painting my ranch as an environmental hazard, doctored photos, coached neighbors whining about roosters and property values. I stood up in front of everyone and told the truth. That fence was cut with bolt cutters. I have the proof. And a witness who'll testify. Marilyn's mask cracked, but she tried to keep control. I held up my phone. I recorded every word. The crowd went silent. It wasn't surrender, just the breath before the strike. Back at the ranch, Rachel and I turned my kitchen table into a war room. Stacks of evidence, timelines, every deed and survey my family ever signed. Then Wyatt came by again, shaking, a map in hand. Found it in Marilyn's office, showing plans to take over the whole valley for a $40 million resort. Rachel's face darkened. This was no longer civil. This was criminal. We filed everything: racketeering complaints, affidavits, evidence of bribery, conspiracy, fraud. I signed the paperwork to form the Cottonwood Conservation District, giving me legal standing and the power to invoke eminent domain. If approved, it meant I could reclaim every acre the HOA touched, even the subdivision they built. Their scam on. Court day came with news vans, angry residents, and Marilyn in her best white coat, still playing queen. But when Rachel laid out the forged signatures, the federal easement, the tax fraud, the recorded confessions, and Wyatt took the stand, well, justice didn't roar. It just walked in steady, in boots. The judge declared the HOA's actions null, Marilyn and Clint in cuffs, and the entire Cedar Hill subdivision was placed under conservation authority. Each parcel valued at only $800. The law turned right back on them. I stood before the residents, scared, angry, confused. Told them, "You won't be evicted. Lease your homes at AG rates. No bulldozers. No tyranny. Just stewardship, conservation, restoration." There were tears, relief, applause, some of it ragged, but real. Days later, Wyatt and I stood at the edge of the creek, watching the sunlight catch on new grass. Rachel joined us, arms full of documents. "You've done something big, Elias," she said. "People will talk about this case for years." "Didn't do it alone," I told her. But I was the spark. As night fell, I stood on my porch, the ranch steady beneath the stars, feeling peace for the first time since the war began. Justice doesn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes it comes in the form of honest paperwork, steady hands, and a stubborn refusal to back down. They tried to steal my legacy. Instead, they handed me the power to protect everyone else's. If you've ever had to stand your ground against folks who thought they could push you around, drop a simple yes in the comments. Let me know you're out there. And if stories of justice, land, and dignity mean something to you, go ahead and hit subscribe. There's plenty more truth left to tell out here. So, what do you think? Was this justice, or just another twist in the long war between right and wrong?